All right, now it is time for the What Are You Into Lately segment where I chat with folks about what they're into. Today, super excited to be chatting with a friend from LA, Tim Mock, who I met, I want to say 2021, that could be a little off, when my husband started working at the same place as him. Tim is a vinyl collector, a dog dad, a tourist king, a husband, community organizer, family guy, bicyclist, a great cook and much, much more. So, Tim, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Janata. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. Yeah, happy to be here and meet with you and chat this morning about vinyl and anything else, really.
For sure. Love it. Is there anything I left out of that intro that you feel is crucial for the listeners to know before we dive in this morning?
Oh, anything crucial? Um, yeah, I mean, I guess like I love I like you. I love LA. I love exploring it by bike. I shared a little bit earlier. I got a new bike, so I was meeting with a friend, and we were just dialing in the fit, and I'm really also excited about that and exploring, and yeah, just a lot of things overlap with exploring the city, catching music events, picking up records. So kind of is in flow.
Love that. And I dialing in the fit, that makes me feel like you are a very legit bicyclist, which I know that you are, but what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean. I think I mean I like being on I like riding my bike a certain way, and usually that's like kind of like comfy, like kind of upright. If you could picture people like on a beach cruiser, it seems like they have like they're carefree and they're just like going about their day and they're not trying to race anybody
Mhm.
or be like extremely aerodynamic. They're just trying to like take in the scenery and have the wind like hit their face, and that's kind of how I like to ride bikes. And you kind of have to like modify your bike to get you into that position.
Okay. No, that makes total sense. Thank you for
Yeah.
expounding. So yeah, when I thought about this week, I love records. Recently I've been listening to them a little bit more. And my love for vinyl really started when I was in college. I had a lot of roommates who owned record players and owned records. It wasn't really something I grew up on at
Hmm.
all. And so I was around records all the time and kind of became obsessed with more of like a slow music kind of vibe away from your phone
Hmm.
and away from like a Bluetooth player or anything like that. And
Yeah.
so about, I don't know, I want to say 5 or so years ago when I was in LA, ended up getting my own record player, Audio Technica, and have been collecting some records ever since. And it's just been a fun hobby to kind of get
Yeah.
into. And so I can't remember exactly when I learned about your hobby. I don't know if it was from Daniel through just like something he learned from you at work, or if it really was
Yeah.
when I befriended Tim's wife, Felly, and came over to y'all's house. And I was like, oh, you are, this is a real
It's
hobby.
on another
This is
level.
a real hobby. So
Yeah.
yeah, super excited to kind of dig into that. But yeah, wanted to kind of know before we get into the history of it, just kind
Sure.
of describe the state of your vinyl hobby in your house. Like just kind of describe what it looks
Okay.
like, where, how many things do you have? Where is it located? Paint a picture for us.
Yeah, so I think if you're walking into my apartment, our apartment, I live with my wife, Ellie, and then our dog, Iggy. Uh and you come in and you see a couch, and then immediately to the left, you see like a large cabinet full of records. It's like four row, like the cube, like cube shelves, you know. So it's like a cube that fits 50 records. So it's like four across and then four rows, and it's pretty much all filled. So I can't really do the math really quickly on that, but if it's like 50. If you sit on the couch though, and you're facing where you just came in, you see another like 2 by 4, just rows of records. And on top of that is the record player, the amp or stereo, and then just a couple bookshelf speakers that are like nestled within the cube shelves. Um, and we do have a TV. When I was living by myself, like I was so all about the music, all about the music. I didn't have a TV for years. I
Huh.
have both now, and yeah, there's I think that's maybe what you noticed was just a lot of records, but I think they're like in a neat place and they're
Yeah.
to the side. You can walk around. It's not like it's my apartment's
He's not
like
a hoarder,
drowning
guys.
in
That's
records.
that's not what we're describing. Stop judging him.
There are 850 records though. So they're there, they're organized by
Whoa.
genre and then like kind of alphabetical by, last name. And I like it when people like come over and like kind of pick through things and they're like, "Hey, what does this sound like?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's listen to this together." I haven't heard it in like a couple years or something like that. So, yeah, I always welcome people over and play music when we have meals together and so forth. So, yeah, music is definitely a big audio and also you can see it and be immersed in it like visually and physically when you're over.
Yeah, I love it. It really is. It really is a sight and it really is cool. So, how did you get into vinyl? Did you grow up on records? How did your hobby start?
With vinyl specifically, maybe 10 or 11 years ago, I moved back to LA. So I grew up in LA. After school, I went and did a few different jobs like on the East Coast and in the South, and it was kind of like my nomadic period. So I knew eventually like I was curious about exploring vinyl, and I wanted to go back to LA to go back to school, and then also like build my network and sustainability and the area that I would eventually come back home to. Yeah, and then I started recognizing and knowing that there's like a lot of awesome record stores in LA. And then I remembered that also my dad had a record player and it was like in the garage, like super dusty. And I don't know if anyone else in the family like had an interest in like trying to see if it actually worked and trying to like get it going again. So it was like the record player, the stereo, and then I purchased some bookshelf speakers on my own that I'm still using with my new setup. So I had a system that I could just use, and my dad was totally cool with giving it to me. Um, and then started exploring record stores and picking them up. So that's when it really started 10, 11 years ago. Fun fact though, the first record though that I ever bought, I was maybe 10. Like I wasn't even thinking about listening to it at the time. It was at a like some sort of yard sale in San Francisco, and I was like, I need to have this Billy Idol record. And it was like
Oh,
25 cents just like laying in someone's, front yard at the yard sale. And he's got like the super blonde hair, really spiky, like shirtless leather vest, and just like I'm
just
like,
spoke to you.
I was just like, I need this. But I mean, I did grow up on music, like just, listening to it in other forms. Like, um, I'd be in the car with like my family. And I remember being like in my dad's truck and then there'd be like, Sade on the radio, you picked up a
Mhm.
record from me
I know.
before.
I've been
And
listening to that every day
yeah,
lately.
I'm so happy. And then, Lou Reed, Temptations. My dad was a big like Tower of Power, like soul music person. And then also just like, pop music on CD. And then, I remember like, how do we might have rented CDs from the library and then like my
Hmm.
mom like burned them onto
Oh
cassette
yeah.
tapes. You know what I'm
Oh
talking
yeah.
about? On a Walkman. It's like
Yep.
we didn't pay for like all the, we borrowed it from the library and stuff. And then
Yep.
from there, was, downloading music online and then, but I always did buy CDs though, like throughout high school and college, just going to Amoeba and some other stores. But
Yeah.
the vinyl came much
Yeah.
later, actually.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Do you feel like when you're collecting, there's a genre you lean toward? I mean, with 850, I'm guessing no. I'm guessing you just kind of pick what you're interested in because.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely not all the same genre. I would say like the alternative rock and jazz are like my biggest collections and probably like the genres I just know most about because I'm so curious to hear more because I mean music in general is just so expansive. Lately though, I'm exploring more of the like kind of like ambient, kind of chilled out electronic, a little droney that kind of just takes you away. Also some more like minimal stuff that's just maybe just like piano playing and like organ, and it's nice to hear in the morning. Like you talk about like the slow music process of like, selecting a record and, putting it on and turning on the stereo and the record player, and then I'm like listening and making like a pour over coffee at the same time, which is also
Mhm.
kind of like a slower, methodical, like tactical process. That's really how I start like every morning is like engaging in that way with it's a nice start
Yeah.
to like any work day or weekend, like, whatever. But yeah, that music. So, I have like a folk section too. I say soul's probably like my third biggest one. Hip hop. I mean, my taste is all over the place as you can see, and like the collection that you browsed through when you were like looking through some of the records that I was eventually gonna put out for sale. It's kind of like a mix of everything and like just a
Mhm.
reflection of what I enjoy, what I think people will enjoy, and um like would just capture someone's attention also.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess when you first started collecting more about a decade ago, as you
Mhm.
described, when did it go from like, okay, I've got 10, I've got 20, I've got 50, I've got 200, I've got 800. Like, how did that just reminds me of Daniel and his board game collection, except he has about like 75 board games, versus 850. But I'm just like, how did it kind of go from like, yeah, this is my hobby to like, oh, this is for sure my thing and I need ample space for it?
Oh my gosh. It's like this because like it's hard because like the snowball, it just keeps growing and you're like,
Yeah.
wait, you're so big, or like, I don't know. I think about like a little like puppy. It's like, oh, you were so small, and then it's like now you're you're like, what happened? You're huge.
Look
I
away for two
mean,
seconds and then
I think it's when the I mean, just back to the like one of the first questions you asked me about like what does your like living space look like, and thinking about the record is like that shelf that 2x4 original, that was only records before, and then it was stuffed, and then I was still buying more records, and then I'm on Facebook Marketplace, and it's like, wait, do I get the same size of this, or do I plan for the future knowing that I've already reached the point of no return and I'm gonna keep getting more records, so then I get that that 4x4 huge shelf from someone that actually had to be like disassembled before we loaded it into the car because it's so massive.
yeah.
I think that might have been the point where I was like, Okay, like it's the collection's gonna grow and we need to like figure this out how to store this in like our place together.
And kind of speaking to how you store them, what does caring for them look like?
Carrying, yeah, so thankfully it's not, excuse me, super extensive. I mean, so storing them. So first of all, like, everyone should be storing their records like vertically, like how you see books like on a bookshelf. Like they're kind of, like upright. I don't have a record here. Just because you don't want them to be horizontal because the disc is gonna warp if it's flat. So So yeah, storing them vertically, number one. Two, I know a few people that do this. So if folks can picture this, right, you have like the record and the jacket or like the sleeve, like where the art is, right? It's like the cover, and then the back is like the songs, and then inside it is like the actual vinyl record, disc piece of plastic itself that's in, usually like a paper sleeve
Mhm.
or some sort of like plastic material. So it's like within the jacket, right?
Hmm.
So I actually don't leave it, I don't leave the disc in the jacket. I put it behind the record. And it's all, and that whole, jacket with the record behind it is all, it's wrapped in that like in a sleeve, in a plastic sleeve. You got the jacket, and then
Hmm.
behind it, outside the sleeve, but um, still within the plastic protector is the disc behind it. Um, I do this because over time, if the disc is within the jacket, like how you buy it. If you leave it in there, it could like wear out the jacket. And if you want to keep it as an art piece and you want to keep it in like the jacket itself in nice condition, you'll try to do what you can to not put any, stress on it. It's kind of like I don't know, when you put like, like a cup with like cold water on like wood, and you remove the cup, there's like a ring that
Hmm.
can form on like your wood countertop or something like it's like kind of similar thing that you can see the disc wearing out the jacket. So I just put it behind it. I know that was like a long way to explain it, but I was trying to like illustrate it for people, like why I do this kind of like archival sort of storing.
Yeah. And that's helpful because I was like, oh, good to know. I, I do have mine up right, but in terms of like how you store it, that's interesting to know.
It's not
And
like critical, but if you got the
I mean,
vertical, you're fine.
well, but that's the thing. It's like if
Yeah.
it's really a collection, which I mean, I have about like 30, then my goal is to keep them nice. So I totally get it. So I kind of want to pivot a bit. I know you have your personal collection that you like to sell from, that you've branded, and I want to
Hmm.
make sure I get the name right. So I'm actually going to let you talk a little bit about your collection and when you kind of sell your records at pop-ups and kind of that whole thing.
Yeah. Here's my little sticker.
T Okay, I thought
So
it was
yeah.
TMokTunes. That's what I
Yeah,
had
yeah,
down,
you
but I didn't
got
trust
it.
myself.
Yeah, TMokTunes, TMokTunes. That is, yeah, I mean it's my vinyl project. It is now, yeah, I mean I do pop-ups, and I bring about 200 or so, like
You bring that
mostly
many?
used. Yeah, yeah,
Whoa.
mostly used, some new like vinyl records to um yeah, I mean just different like community events where there's different like you know vendors, food vendors, like artists, vintage clothing vendors. I even do like pop-up events at like community like bike events where people are also selling like bicycle like components, and some people are also selling like clothes. It's like people in the bicycle community like who have different like I don't know passions and hobbies too. So yeah, so I do pop-ups there, and yeah, sell records. I mean, initially, I mean that's not what I was thinking about doing before. I mean, really, how it all started was just after going to so many record stores and like flipping and flipping through records, I was noticing like I was getting really excited that even though I already had a record, like I would find a record, I'd be flipping through and I'd be like, oh, whoa, this like, this, I don't know, like Meredith Monk record, and there's like this, Friends of Distinction record, but I already had those records, so I already had the joy of like surprise and then being able to buy it for myself. And I was thinking like, wow, what would it be like if like I was record shopping with like a good friend who was with me, um, who's open to learning about recommendations and exploring new music that could buy it because I'm excited about it and I think it's nice and maybe less known, but more people uh should be listening to it. So I was like, what would it be like to have like a friend like find it? So I started thinking like, what if I like picked up a bunch of records and like just put it back out there in through the vehicle of TMokTunes through like these pop-up events where it's a little bit more like it's curated through like my filter and like priced appropriately and knowing that also like selling records is it's not my main source of income, so I'm able to be, I think, pretty reasonable with that, and I just want to put stuff back out there and have people get excited about stuff that I think is interesting, compelling, and good. So that's kind of the origins, and my friend made me this cute little logo too. My
I
friend's
know, it's so cute. I love that.
start.
We've got one of the stickers. It's great. And I will be linking Tim's TMokTunes Instagram so you all can see that and follow the records. And even for folks who may not even have a record player yet, he can put you on to really interesting artists you may not have known of that maybe you could, find somewhere else and listen to. So I like that too when you post just like different covers of what you've been listening to lately or just like
Yeah.
still images of cool artists. So I've liked that too. So in terms of how and where you play your vinyls, I have an Audio Technica record player. You had something snazzy when I was in your house. So describe what you play yours on.
Yeah, the equipment, so the turntable itself, the record player, it's I mean the brand is Rega, Rega, the planar 2 if you want to get specific. There's like different levels of it. I did like a little bit of research before getting it. But I think with the level 2, it's like a higher quality tone arm, which is, like the like it's kind of like a tube that it moves. Like it moves, it's like the arm, so it moves towards like the outer diameter of the record. And I think when you were here, I did have an upgraded needle. So okay, I am getting a
Mhm.
little bit nerdy because I wore out the original needle it came with, and I got a needle by a company called Naogoka, I think is how you pronounce it. And there's different levels of that. I mean, you can get in really deep with this stuff, but the quality of the needle does make a difference, and the tone arm's pretty nice. I mean, I've had this record player now for I want to say like maybe 6 years now. It's still going strong, and this is just the record player. Like I still use the same like clips, bookshelf speakers as I did 11 years ago when I got my dad's system started. So I got the
Shout out
bookshelf
to Matt
speakers.
Klipsch, who I went to high school with. That's his
Yeah.
family's company.
That's so wild. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, they put out a lot of good stuff. And then the amp, I have the company is called Marantz. It's really cool. It's like a vintage. I don't know if it's like late 70s or like early 80s, but it's like an all silver plated, like super minimalist.
Hmm.
So it's like vintage amp mixed with like modern turntable and modern speakers. It's like a mix of like silver and black, and it's on my record cabinet, which is also like kind of like a dark brown black. And yeah, so that's the system. It works pretty good, and I guess it is, yeah, you could say it's snazzy, but like thankfully, like two of those things I picked up used, like on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. So I wasn't, so I was trying to like hunt stuff down too that was, reasonable.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of just the overall commitment to vinyl, I would say
Yeah.
owning them is a commitment. I would say I am comfortable with the commitment because to me, it's more so of like a life, I hate to say lifestyle, that sounds so pretentious, but in terms of wanting to slow down, for me, it's a part of that. I go to my records when I am going to make kind of similar to you, like my French press coffee, and I'm turning
Yeah.
my, lighting on and I'm just trying to relax. It's very intentional. But for other folks who may not be used to that level or that slow of speed, I don't know. Would you still encourage them to engage in the hobby? Because it's not as easy as just turning something on and never having to touch it again. It's like, okay, 15 minutes in or 30 minutes, depending on the record, you're gonna have to flip it. You're gonna have to push play. It's not just as easy as, listening to Spotify. So, what are your thoughts for folks who just may not be used to that slow type of rhythm?
Yeah. That's a really good, yeah, that's a really good question. Um, yeah, I mean, one part of me is like, and this goes into like my, I guess, TMokTunes mantra is like, I feel like music and accessing music, should be for everyone. I think the how to do it does require like a change in like perspective and approach. So I think for folks that are like for curious about doing it, I would say if you have the means and like the time means meaning like money and like space and the time being like you learned about like the process of like what you're saying, like how, what are the steps to actually like have music enter my ears? Like there are steps, like you were saying. Um, try it out. You can start really simple. There's a lot of kind of like all-in-one systems that I would recommend for people who, want to get their feet wet in it, and you don't have to invest in the whole like record player, separate speakers, um, amp system. You can get like a Victrola or like a Crosley. It's kind of like a suitcase. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure you, Janana, and like others have probably seen it,
Mhm.
and that's a great introduction. To seeing like if this is something that you dig and that you'd want to integrate more. So I'd encourage it. I think those players are good for that. And if you are wanting to get deeper into like evolving your system, um, there's a lot of ways to do that. But I think that's a good intro on really how to get started, and the speakers all integrated within the player itself, and you just need to plug it into one socket and have a record, and it's all in one, and I think it'd be a great intro. So that's a good way to start.
Yeah, that's a good point. My sister owns one of those, and a couple other friends of mine do. Okay, so one final kind of question here. So for me, collecting vinyl has put me on to so many different genres and artists and even music history because I like to say I don't buy any records of like any artist that got big like past 2005 or something. Like if I'm looking for something, like I'll
Yeah.
have like I don't know, I have like a old like OG Simon and Garfunkel record, Barbra Streisand, the
Nice.
Temptations, or Gladys Knight and the Pips, which I got from you. Like
Oh
stuff like
yeah.
that. That's what I'm really, really into. And I feel like collecting vinyl has changed how I even engage with music. And so that's my kind of final question to you. Have you noticed your collecting of vinyl impact how you engage with music overall?
Hmm. Ye- I would say, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm just thinking about like what I'm like genres and stuff like I'm really interested in collecting now versus like what I was listening to, in the past. I mean, I really draw like pretty clear distinctions to like sampling and just how a lot of like contemporary, I mean, it can be broad, but just like a lot of like even like pop music or like hip hop samples a lot of like soul and jazz, and then I just became really curious about like, what are those original songs? Like like what are they like? So I was picking up a lot of stuff like, and I mean, I even think like the Gladys Knight and the Pips record that you bought, I feel
Hmm.
like there's a Biggie sample on there. So that's like 90s, drawing from, that time. And then what else is like, I'm thinking also about, not just exploring other like records across the decades from a specific artist, but also like the record label that the record was put out on is like, if
Yeah.
I'm feeling like it's I want to learn about what else that record label was putting out by artists that I might not know about
Hmm.
yet. I mean, I'm doing that right now just to kind of like even pivot genres to some more like modern classical, like simple like piano stuff on like a label called Unseen Worlds. And it's just really pleasant to listen to. It's simple and I'm like it's a little abstract, but I feel like it's also like really accessible and really chill. So I'm like, sometimes I'm at a record store and I'm like in that, section. I guess it could vary on what it's called, like ambient, like modern classical. Like I go there and then sometimes I just look for like the logo, like of like the record label and see like, hey, I wonder if there's like anything on this label that is with that's piquing my interest, and it's also like what I'm planning to spend today on records,
Yeah.
and yeah, and seeing if it is yeah, it just something new, but also like it's like I also trust the music that is put out by the label. I trust
Exactly.
like the late 60s, mid 50s, stuff on, Blue Note for jazz, Stone's Throw for hip hop, like different like yeah, just the labels, and I think about it that way too through just what they put out.
That's so interesting because I've definitely looked at the back of some of the records I've purchased and been like, oh, one, I've never heard of this label, or I have heard of
Right.
this label, but I didn't know this person was on there. So that's super
Mhm.
interesting. And that's actually something I want to think a bit more about when I look into mine again. So thanks again for coming on. This has been so, so fun and so interesting. When I was thinking about my slate for 2025, I was like, I gotta get Tim on. We gotta talk about records. So I'm so glad you were able to come on and that this ended up working out. So before we go, is there anything
Sure.
else you want to say to the listeners?
This was really fun. Yeah, I appreciate you, Jadonna, for being excited about the conversation and just your passion for music too. Like, I don't know, I just feel like it's like reciprocal energy and just like, we're just having a dialogue about music, and um I think it's cool that yeah, you're this could be shared too
Yeah,
with other people um on a time that works for them too. So that's really cool. But other things, music. I mean,
No
I
pressure.
I have to pick up some records. Actually, I'm not trying to rush out of here, but it's really actually this is really serendipitous because some record stores they'll sell records through Instagram. I don't know if you've been
Mm,
noticing that, but I've been purchasing some. It started in the pandemic when you couldn't go in person, and then
mm.
local independent shops started posting it on on social media, and then I would pick it up, and I have someone pick so they kept doing it. So I actually have to pick up some from Permanent Records in Cypress Park like today because they've been sitting there for a while, and I was like, oh no, it's like it's taking up so much of their space, and I need to go pick them up. And some of them are for me, but some of them are also ones that may be for sale too that I'm just gonna put back out there for like I don't know, like the same price that I bought it just to recirculate it. So
Yeah.
I got to remember what I purchased. But I'm
And
excited
and
because it'll be like a
if
little
I need to
mystery.
go to LA in order to get more records from you, do you ever ship them?
I can, I can. I can ship records to you. It's not there. It hasn't been like formally out there yet, and I might even open like a Discogs store down the line because I have some interesting pretty valuable stuff too.
What's a
Um,
Discog store?
yeah, so Discogs is an app, and it's also like a good way to categorize your music library. CDs, cassettes, vinyl, all sorts of mediums, and then it draws to the certain the version or the pressing, and there's information about it. And it's also like a marketplace, so people sell music, through it too. You can see the median price of what it's going for, like when the last one was sold, how much. So it's also a way to gauge I guess the market um and value of your collection. So it's kind of interesting too. It'll automatically calculate that when you create a profile, you just upload your library and
Hmm.
have it there. So yeah, I mean I've been on it for like a while, and I do purchase records as well through other sellers on Discogs.
Sweet. Well, that's super good to know as well. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here, but thanks again for coming on and super excited to again link folks over to TMokTunes. And outside of that, hope to be in LA soon to see you in the fam in person, knock on wood. But yeah, thanks again and let's move on.
Yeah. I can't wait to see you all too. We'll go out to dinner with the fams.
Yes, that'll be so fun.